Hey everybody, so I thought I would do a quick catch up after putting the 400 grit sharpening video out there. And one thing I feel guilty about with some videos, and I've even criticised it myself, is the slightly tabloid nature of the headlines and or the video titles. And in that case I think it's pretty much spot on there. I can't deny there's a little bit of, wanted to grab a little bit of attention, but it's done in quite a positive way. Now, there was a situation where I think it troubled an individual that I was suggesting that 400 grit might be an acceptable way to do woodworking at home. I hope I shared enough information about the kind of things I do and how it works, but I may not have. But that's, I think I put in the comments that I think that certainly going to 1000 grit is more than enough to get a good edge and to learn your woodworking, and maybe as far as you need to go. I still stand by that. That doesn't mean that you should, far from it. I'm not telling you not to buy better stuff. You can buy whatever combination of stones from whatever suppliers, from whatever individuals you want. I've got no interest in that at all. You can do whatever you want, but I like to know what's practical and what gets people good results. Now, something that really came good out of that video, which I really liked, was that people have been sharing their experience with cheap diamond plates. Now, I have got 3 sharpening stones I bought. I don't have them to show here, but I was going to do a test at some point. I got a Shapton ceramic thing, one of those just splash and go stones, not the glass stones, which I think are a bit expensive, and an Atomid diamond plate, and just a Norton India, brand new one. And at some point I was going to just do like boom boom boom, here you go. And I'll probably add one more into that, because a lot of people have been saying, you know, just go to AliExpress or go to Amazon and you can pick up a diamond plate, a sort of 8x3 for not much money, maybe 20-25 pounds. And that's very good value, although they won't last as long as a Norton India. If you're only a home woodworker, they're going to last a long time, and that's a good option. But I think we got stuck in a conversation. I think it's difficult when you're having a discussion in the comments. Things can sometimes spiral a bit. But I thought, well, maybe what contemporary references can I bring to this about how I feel that maybe 1000 is acceptable. So I dug through my library and dusted off the old classic, which is the Ernest Joyce, the technique of furniture making. Importantly, 4th edition, revised by the late great Alan Peters. Well worth looking up him. So, and what I love about these sources is they spend virtually 0 time discussing sharpening media. So oil stones, they talk about the Washita stone, which I've probably got in that old box there that I picked up quite cheaply. Lovely stone to use, great practical tool, sharpening stone. It also talks about the Norton India, how that's fine, and that you can get them in coarse, medium and fine, and not a suggestion that that's bad. It also moves on to waterstones, and here it talks specifically about grit, and right at the end it says they are available in several grits. The writer manages perfectly with 2 only, a 1200 and a 1600. Now, yeah, that's more than 400, but I also said in the comments, yeah, you want to go to 1000. By the time a diamond plate beds in a bit, it's going to be cutting a bit higher on that 1000. If you use a strop like I do after an India, that's going to refine it up. It's a practical edge. You know, this was revised in 1987. Alan Peters didn't feel that he needed to up that. Now, if you feel that you need to go higher in that grit, then for heaven's sake, do it. You know, I don't agree that it would take somebody years to learn how to sharpen effectively. For some people, I'm sure it does. No question about that. I would say that with my experience of dealing with people hands-on, that if I can't show somebody how to sharpen a chisel on a plane and they can't get it within half an hour to an hour, we've got problems. I don't think I've even really encountered that situation before. I can appreciate if you're at home and everything's quite new, that might be a situation, but I've never experienced it. I don't get how that would be a thing. And one of the things I think can happen as a home woodworker is that if you go obsess about fine grits, what you can do is you can use a plane or a chisel so much that the edge degrades. And maybe one of the faults you've got when you're new is you're not sharpening frequently enough, is that your edges become so damaged and you think, oh, I need to go crazy fine, that you don't drop down to a coarse enough medium, and that you just go to a really fine stone and you wonder why you're not maintaining a really good level of sharpness. And a 1000 grit, a 400 grit off in India, you can get clean enough results. And I do stand by my comments that just because you sharpen to a really high grit level, let's say 16,000 is a number, that all of a sudden a plane just works for you. That's absolutely demonstrably not true. You've got to make sure the sole of the plane is well lubricated, that the sole is in good condition, that it's flat enough. That is going to be dependent on your work, but if you can take long continuous shavings all the way through and your workpiece is flat, then that's fine. I'm not undermining the necessariness of flat, but it can be a confusing topic because people say, oh, it's got to be dead flat. It's like, well, does it got to be aerospace flat, or what's the tolerance? What's this? What's that? You know, it is what it is. And there's the other suggestion put forward that, well, you know, I've said that a cap iron allows sort of these bevel down planes to be a bit more effective, allow you to have a bit more scope and ability to control tear out more easily. And it was suggested like, well, that's wrong because your bevel up will deal with everything fine as long as it's mega sharp. And it's like, well, they do, but a lot of these bevel up planes are sold with multiple irons, so they get steeper. If you plane troublesome wood with just what is basically just below common pitch with a bevel up, you're much more likely to get tear out. I'm not imagining that. It happens. It's easy to demonstrate. I've done a few videos on it. It is what it is. I like to look at older books. You know, we've got that Ernest Joyce there from the 80s, but it was, you know, available in earlier editions. But things like setting the cap iron, a lot of people do struggle with because shavings can get lodged under there. You've got to get a feeling for how far and you set it away from the edge to suit the task at hand. There's that little bit of nuance to develop, and there are some older texts, and I personally think, and I would recommend to anybody watching, it's worthwhile just taking a moment to read some of those and experiment, because it only takes sometimes, you know, maybe a couple of hours, something like that, and it can be like, oh wow, that's just expanded the working range that I can have from one of my tools. And another thing that came up was that maybe with my video I was trying to undermine and say, well, all you need is just a cheap old Stanley and a cheap Norton India and just slapdash at home and do what you want. And that's not the case at all. But I do stand by the fact that this Stanley number 4, which is in good condition, it's from when Stanley took pride in making their tools, is equal to this Clifton, is equal to this Veritas. I would say it's better than this Veritas. For me personally anyway, there'll be other people that might prefer this one. These Baileys are a good kind of everyman type plane. Alright, some people might head in the direction of all wooden ones, some people might prefer really high-end, high-engineered ones, but I know I've spoken to people who have bought the revered Lee Nielsen's, and they've been out of tolerance for their work, but intolerance for how they are sold, so you can't get a return on them, and they've moved them on. And this is what gets so complicated. At the end of the day, I would recommend that somebody, if you're new to it and you're not experienced with planes, perhaps grab a number 4 and a number 5, practice with them, get to know them, and know that you're going to need to develop your skill set and understand how to do a bit of problem solving. Definitely a sharp iron is going to be essential, absolutely essential, and you can take that as far as you want. But there are lots of things. Plane chatter, it could be caused by a dull iron, but if it's come straight off in India, you're not going to get chatter if you know how to use a plane properly. Tear out, if you've sharpened off in India, you can tame tear out on just using a cap iron. You can search on the internet for wood from hell. I don't know if it's still on the UK Workshop forum, but certainly on YouTube, Matthew from Workshop Heaven demonstrates planing up a piece of this wood. Now, there's a guy called Rob Stokely that owned that wood. I got a piece and I planed it up with a number 4 with an India and a cap iron. It was possible. You know, it's ridiculous because the wood is awful. It's the kind of wood that you would scrape. It's hellacious. You wouldn't use it for very much, but the plane was able to deal with it. It could do it. But I also don't want to think that people that I'm telling you not to buy good things. If you can afford a Lee Nielsen, a Wood River, a Clifton, whatever you want to spend your money on, a specific honing guide, all the stones, whatever you need, go for it. But I do think it's well worth remembering, certainly here in the UK at least, that we've just got so many high quality tools that are just like litter. It's like you go on eBay and it's not difficult to pick up a number 4 and number 5, 5.5 even, for not much money, you know? And they're damn good planes. You know, these were used by trade professionals to make high quality pieces. That's true. You know, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm not trying to just shape anybody or tell them what to do. And I learned by putting that video out that I'm definitely going to give one of those cheap diamond plates a go, just so I can feed back to and do a video and show people how they work out. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope that clears up a little bit of the approach I was trying to take. And if it offended somebody, my approach, I'm sorry that you were offended, but I'll carry on making the videos, and you know, it is what it is. See you soon.